So let's get started with our top business stories of the year. Remember when the government tried to ban ride-sharing apps? It was a chaotic couple of weeks, and it's our number 5 story. The Jamaican government's attempt to ban ride-sharing apps led to a very chaotic couple of weeks. On June 4, Minister of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport Daryl Vaz announced an immediate one-year ban on popular ride-sharing apps like Uber, InDrive, and local services such as 876 on the go. The decision came after some tragic incidents, including the disappearance and murder of teacher Danielle Anglin. Anglin reportedly went missing after booking a taxi ride through InDrive. In 2023, 26-year-old Leroy Page, an InDrive driver, also went missing and still has not been found. The government said that these incidents highlighted safety concerns with these apps. Vaz noted that unregulated platforms could allow criminals to exploit the system. There were also issues like unfair pricing, undercutting traditional taxi operators, economic impacts, and even national security concerns. The government argued that the apps operated without clear regulations, which was a big problem. Large international corporations like Uber and InDrive and some local companies were not willingly coming to the table to discuss regulations. But the move sparked a lot of public backlash, with people calling it reactionary to Anglin's death. Local taxi company operators also said it was unfair, especially since some of them had partnered with the government in the past and had clean records. Others pointed out that existing laws didn't cover ride-hailing apps, leading to confusion. The drama was short-lived, though, as telecoms companies Digicel and Flow, who were asked to block access to these apps, said nope. They argued the government didn't have the authority to demand this, and in the end, there was nothing the government could do to force their hands. The attempt was successful in bringing a lot of the reluctant companies to the table to discuss regulating the sector. Now on to number 4. Trinidad and Tobago is no stranger to foreign exchange issues, but the problem definitely got worse in 2024. Trinis really started feeling the pinch when they couldn't even take US dollars out of their own accounts. The foreign exchange crisis in Trinidad and Tobago reached a new peak in 2024. Many Trinis took to social media to express their frustration with having very limited access to the US dollar even in their own accounts. Caribbean economist Marla Dukaran explained on Taking Stock that Trinidad relies heavily on its energy sector to earn foreign currency. But global gas prices have fallen, and so have earnings. Plus, Trinidad is a mature oil provider. Why is production so far down? Is it just inefficiencies, or are you guys running out of these commodities?
So that's a good question. In terms of the oil, we are running out of oil, and we have every so often a Ryder Scott analysis that shows that we're going to run out very soon. We do have more natural gas production than we do oil. But yes, we're running out. And increasingly, the oil and gas that is there is more expensive to extract based on how deep, if it's in deep water, etc. And then you also have competition, like Guyana, for example, is the world's, I think, still the world's newest producer of oil. And it's much cheaper, to get the oil from Guyana than it is to invest in the infrastructure to extract oil from Trinidad and Tobago. We are a mature producer. We have been producing oil for over 100 years. So it's running out.
So with less money coming in, there's less US currency to go around. This has been a nightmare for businesses which need US dollars to pay for imports like raw materials or stock, but banks can't always meet the demand. According to Dukaran, the shortage is also fueling a growing black market where people pay higher rates to get dollars.
The central bank in Trinidad and Tobago is saying, you know what, we're going to control the price and leave it at $6.80 roughly. TT for $1, we're going to control the supply. And guess what happens? You then have a black market. Now, so there is a foreign exchange crisis in that the official market for foreign exchange is very tight. But interestingly, and it was in the press this week, that the black market, you can get almost any amount of US dollars in the black market in Trinidad and Tobago, but you have to pay $7.50, $8, sometimes even more than $8 TT for $1.
Even students studying abroad are feeling the pinch. Banks have strict limits on how much Forex they can sell. For many families, this means stress over paying tuition or rent in US dollars. The central bank does inject Forex into the system, but it's not enough to meet everyone's needs. Some businesses have found ways to adapt, like exporting goods to earn foreign currency directly. Others are calling for better policies to ensure fair distribution of Forex. What do you think our number 3 story is? And can you guess number 1? Let me know in the comments. We're going to take a quick break. What? It's in the budget. 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 Download my free budgeting template at buildyourbudgets.com.
Let's get this money.
Welcome back. Well, Jamaica's national budget has been steadily getting larger over the past few years. The 2024 budget was the country's largest so far and included some interesting plans. Let's take a look back. Jamaica's 2024 national budget was the country's largest one yet, with the government explaining how it planned to earn and spend $1.3 trillion within the financial year. The first question most people asked was, where am I going to get the money from? Well, it wasn't from any new taxes. For the 7th consecutive year, the government announced no new taxes. Then Minister of Finance, Dr. Nigel Clarke, announced that the government planned to securitize some of its receivables worth about $45 billion. That means the government planned to pool its outstanding payments and sell them. The opposition said it needed more clarity on the move, but Dr. Clarke said the government was still in the process of finalizing the details. The 2024 budget had a number of big announcements, like the reverse income tax credit. Jamaicans who earn under 3 million Jamaican dollars per year and whose taxes are up to date would become eligible for a one-off payment of $20,000. The government estimated that over 641,000 workers could benefit from this initiative. Applications opened in October, and the first round of funds were dispersed in November. The government also announced unemployment insurance. Dr. Clarke explains that the government signed a $20 million loan with the World Bank to provide the Ministry of Labor and Social Security with the technical support to implement unemployment insurance. The funds would provide a safety net for Jamaicans who've lost their jobs.
Say that unemployment insurance has been a reality for other Caribbean countries for decades, Bahamas and Barbados. Jamaica started the national insurance scheme in the 1960s, and in that debate, when you look at it, the intention was to, do unemployment insurance next, but history took over, so to speak. The unemployment insurance scheme is a contributory scheme in the worst case, and will provide an unemployment benefit that is linked to the person's prior earnings. So I give an example of Barbados and Bahamas to make the point. In Barbados, a person who is newly unemployed will receive 60% of their previous weekly earnings for 26 weeks. That's 6 months. In Bahamas, the person who is newly unemployed will receive 50% of their previous weekly earnings for 13 weeks, which is 3 months. Jamaica will have to choose the parameters that make sense for us. The cost from our feasibility study is about 0.8% to 1.5% of payroll if we simply slap it on as an additional deduction. We would ideally not like to do that. what we'd prefer to do is to consolidate existing deductions into a single social statutory tax, or whatever we decide to call it. And then the funds would be remitted by legislation to the respective agencies, NHT, NIS, HART, etc.
There was also some good news for the stock market. The government announced that they plan to increase the share capital limit for junior market companies from $500 million to $750 million. This would allow companies to raise more money on the junior market while still benefiting from the 10-year tax incentive. The 2024 budget was definitely a big one. Jamaicans are holding their breath to see what the 2025 budget will look like under a new finance minister. Fayval Williams was appointed finance minister after Dr. Nigel Clark stepped down from the role he held for almost a decade. Dr. Clark took on the role as deputy managing director of the International Monetary Fund in October. So, we've made it to our top two. For the past 4 years, we've heard the words interest rates probably a million times, and most of the time it wasn't good. But we finally got some good news in 2024. 2024 saw the Bank of Jamaica finally cutting its base policy rate 3 years after the first increase. The central bank began raising interest rates in September 2021 at the height of the pandemic as a way to stay ahead of the spike in inflation. They continued the gradual increase until rates got to 7% in November of 2022, and that's where it stayed until August 2024. Inflation peaked at almost 12% during the pandemic, which forced the BOJ to stay aggressive and maintain the interest rate. The increased rates had a ripple effect on just about every area of the economy, from increases in mortgage and car loan rates to multiple increases in the price of KFC. But with inflation consistently falling, calls started coming in for the central bank to loosen the reins and ease some of the pressure on businesses and regular people. Despite a temporary increase due to the passage of Hurricane Beryl, Jamaica's point-to-point inflation rate was consistently within the BOJ's target range of 4 to 6% in 2024. This led to the BOJ being cautiously optimistic and reducing rates. As of November 2024, interest rates are down from 7% to 6.25%. The move was welcomed by business leaders across the island who say lower interest rates make borrowing cheaper. This is crucial for small and medium-sized enterprises, which make up a huge part of Jamaica's economy. Ironically, there is still some skepticism that the timing is right. Some leaders are cautiously watching inflation trends. Now, before we get to our top story, we have to give an honorable mention to two major stories in 2024. 2024 saw the re-election of former President Donald Trump to office 4 years after he was voted out. According to analysts, one of the main reasons he was re-elected was to fix the U.S. economy. Many voters see Trump as a businessman who can stimulate growth, and he promised to bring jobs back to the U.S. and improve trade deals. Within days of his victory, Bitcoin broke the $80,000 mark and continued to climb. It eventually broke the $100,000 mark in December. Experts say the rally was fueled by optimism surrounding Trump's pro-crypto stance and his proposed policies. One of Trump's cornerstone promises was to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which some analysts believe could shift the global perception of cryptocurrency as a legitimate financial asset. He also vowed to remove the regulatory hurdles that have plagued the crypto industry, including overhauling the Securities and Exchange Commission's leadership and clarifying regulations for digital assets. Financial markets have responded enthusiastically. Bitcoin ETFs reported over $600 million in inflows shortly after Trump's election, a sign that institutional investors are taking long positions on cryptocurrency. Analysts project that Bitcoin could reach $125,000 by early next year as confidence grows. Time now for our story of the year. Growing up in the Caribbean, we all know natural disasters are part of the deal. But in 2024, the natural disasters, led by Hurricane Beryl, racked up a hefty bill. Natural disasters wreaked havoc on Jamaicans in 2024, causing billions in damages. The country experienced multiple earthquakes greater than 5.1 magnitude over the year. The quakes resulted in damage to homes and businesses. Tropical Storm Raphael racked up a $647 million bill after it swept through the island in November. The storm, which would later become a Category 3 hurricane when it devastated Cuba, dumped liters of rain across the island, blocking roads and downing power lines. But the most devastating natural disaster of 2024 was Hurricane Beryl. Beryl tore through Jamaica on July 3, causing major damage to homes, farms, and roads. The hardest hit were the parishes of Manchester, Clarendon, and St. Elizabeth, Jamaica's breadbasket parish. The Category 4 storm made history by becoming one of the most powerful and earliest hurricanes to hit the island. With winds over 140 miles per hour, dozens of trees and power lines were damaged, plunging hundreds of Jamaicans into darkness. The Jamaica Public Service struggled to reconnect some of its customers, especially on the western side of the island. It took over 5 weeks for electricity to be fully restored. But it was the agriculture sector that was hit especially hard. According to officials, over 48,000 farmers were affected. Damages totaled almost 5 billion Jamaican dollars. Over 300,000 animals were lost, including poultry and livestock. Fishing communities also suffered, losing gear and boats worth billions. Crops like sweet peppers, tomatoes, and bananas were wiped out, causing prices to skyrocket. Who remembers that infamous $1,000 tomato? Tourism, another pillar of Jamaica's economy, was also hurt, with damaged beaches and closed hotels. Overall, Hurricane Beryl is estimated to have cost the country over $32 billion and resulted in the economy shrinking by almost 3%. So what was your top business story in 2024? Let us know in the comments.